Two zookeepers burst through my door and said, "Sir, there is a venomous rattlesnake in your bathroom." I froze. I was in my pajamas. It was 7:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. I lived in a third-floor apartment in downtown Hartford. We did not have wildlife. The two men in front of me were wearing khaki uniforms with name tags that said Brookfield Zoo and Anders and Kepler. Anders was holding what looked like a long pole with a hook on the end. Kepler was carrying a clear plastic container. "Sir, please step outside immediately. The animal escaped our transport vehicle 30 minutes ago, and tracking shows it entered your apartment through the bathroom vent." I grabbed my shoes and walked into the hallway. Anders followed me out. Kepler went into my bathroom. I could hear him moving things around. He was in there for almost 10 minutes. Anders stood in my doorway making small talk. "These rattlesnakes can strike in under a tenth of a second." Something about that smile didn't sit right. Brookfield Zoo is in Chicago, not Hartford. I almost said something. Then Kepler came out of the bathroom holding the clear plastic container with a triumphant smile. Inside was a snake. It was moving. It looked very real. Anders shook my hand. "Sir, thank you for your cooperation. We'll need you to sign a release of liability and a non-disclosure form about this incident. Brookfield Zoo policy." He pulled out a clipboard. I'd been about to sign when I noticed something. The clipboard was a hotel clipboard. The non-disclosure form was a single piece of paper. No letterhead, no legalese, just a line for my signature. "Can I see the form first?" Anders pulled it back slightly. "If you don't sign, we'd have to charge you for the emergency response. Several $1,000s. I looked at Kepler. He was looking at the door, like he wanted to leave. "Let me get my reading glasses." I walked past them back into my apartment. I picked up my phone. I dialed 911. I whispered, "There are two men in my apartment claiming to be zookeepers. I think this is a scam." I walked back to the front door. "Sir, the form? I'm going to need a few more minutes." Anders's smile got tighter. "Sir, we don't have a few minutes." Kepler was now glancing back into my apartment. I followed his gaze. My laptop was on the kitchen counter. My wallet was next to it. The watch my grandfather had left me, worth about $6,000, was sitting on the coffee table. Anders took a step forward. "Sir, the form, now." "Get out of my apartment." Kepler reached toward the watch on the coffee table. Sirens, 3 blocks away and getting closer. Anders's whole face changed. He grabbed Kepler by the arm. "Let's go." They moved fast. They sprinted down the hallway and out the back staircase. The snake was left in the plastic container on my kitchen floor. The police arrived 4 minutes later. They came back a few minutes later. The lead officer pulled me aside. "Sir, the snake in the container is a rubber prop. Realistic, but fake." The officer told me this was a new scam they'd been tracking in the area. Fake zookeepers. They'd hit 4 other apartments in the past 2 weeks. Then the officer told me something that froze me. "Sir, did either of the men go into the bathroom alone?" "Kepler. He was in there for about 10 minutes. The officer nodded slowly. "We're going to need to do a more thorough sweep of your bathroom." He went into the bathroom for about 3 minutes. He came back out. "Sir, we're going to need you to come down to the station." "What's missing?" The officer hesitated. Then he said, "Nothing is missing. They put something in your bathroom." He held up a small black device the size of a quarter. "Surveillance equipment, recording audio and transmitting." I felt sick. The zookeepers aren't actually targeting valuables. They're a cover for the real installation team. There's a network. We've been trying to crack this for 8 months. He paused. "And sir, we need to ask you something else. Do you know a woman named Phaedra Whitmore?" My stomach turned. Phaedra was my ex-girlfriend. We'd broken up 4 months ago. Badly. "Yes." "Why?" "Because the address that the surveillance device was set to transmit to is registered to her." At the station, I sat in a small room with bad lighting. The officer leaned back and held up a photo of the device. "This is professional-grade equipment. You can't just buy this online." Someone knew what they were doing. I told him about Phaedra. I told him we dated for a little over a year. I told him she called me 40 times the first week after I ended things. 40. I counted. I told him she showed up at my gym twice. I told him I changed my locks because one night I came home and my door was unlocked. When I finished, he said, "We can't arrest her yet. The transmission address alone isn't enough. We need her to be directly linked to hiring those two men." I asked him what I was supposed to do. He looked at me straight and said, "Act normal. Don't let on that you know. If she thinks you're onto her, she'll destroy evidence." I drove back to my apartment and the first thing I did was call Benaya. I told him everything. I talked for probably 5 straight minutes without stopping. Then he said, "I need to tell you something." My chest got tight. "Phaedra called me last week. She asked me if you were seeing anyone new." I told her I didn't know. I thought she was just being weird. I closed my eyes. It hit me all at once. Phaedra had been building a picture of my life from every angle she could find. After I hung up, I started going through my phone. I opened my messages and searched Phaedra's name. Most of the texts I'd gotten from her after the breakup, I'd deleted without reading, but some were still in my trash folder. The early ones, from right after we split, were sad. The middle ones were angry. But the last few, sent about 3 weeks ago, were different. They were calm. Way too calm. "I just want you to be okay. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I'm always here." I read that one 3 times. That was sent the week before Anders and Kepler showed up. The calm in those messages wasn't acceptance. It was the sound of someone who had made a decision. That night, I couldn't sleep. I thought about every single thing I had done in that bathroom. I always took calls in the bathroom. The acoustics were better in there. Then I remembered something specific, and it made my whole body go cold. About 2 weeks before the fake zookeepers, I called my mom. I was standing in the bathroom, and we were talking about my grandfather Benson's watch, the one he left me, the one worth about $6,000. I told her I kept it on the coffee table. I said the words coffee table out loud, in that bathroom, with that device sitting in the vent above me. That's how they knew about the watch. That's why Kepler kept looking at the coffee table when he came out of the bathroom. Phaedra heard me talking to my own mother about my dead grandfather's watch, and she used that information to send 2 strangers into my home to take it. The next morning, I did something stupid. The officer told me to act normal, but I kept thinking about her voice. I told myself I just wanted to hear it. I called Phaedra. She picked up on the second ring. "Oh my God, hi," she said. "I didn't think you'd ever call me again." I made small talk. 2 minutes of this, and I hated every single second of it. Then I said, as casually as I could, "Weird thing happened yesterday. 2 guys showed up at my apartment saying there was a snake loose in the building." Dead silence. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 full seconds. Then she laughed. It came out a beat too late and a note too too high. That's so random, she said. Were they pest control or something? She changed the subject so fast I almost got whiplash. I hung up and immediately called Benaya. She knows. The second I mentioned it, she went quiet. 3 full seconds of nothing. Benaya was quiet for a moment. You called her? Are you serious right now? The cops told you not to do that. I know. Then why did you do it? Because I needed to hear it for myself. After I hung up, I sat down at my kitchen table with a notebook and started writing. Every time I'd seen Phaedra or heard from her since the breakup, the first gym visit, the second gym visit, the time I ran into her at the grocery store near my apartment, the coffee shop, walking past my building, the bar on a Friday night, 6 times. At least 6 times in 4 months she had shown up somewhere I was. And every single time I had told myself it was a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. None of it was. 2 days went by. On the 3rd morning, I walked out the front door of my building and my whole body locked up. Phaedra was standing on the sidewalk. Right there. She was holding a cardboard box. She smiled when she saw me. I found some of your stuff, she said. Thought you might want it back. I took the box from her because I didn't know what else to do. She didn't leave. Do you want to get coffee? She asked. No, I said. I've got to get to work. She tilted her head. You seem different. Is everything okay? I'm fine. She reached out and touched my arm. I miss you, she said. I pulled my arm back. She noticed. I watched something change in her face. It was fast. Less than a second. The warmth in her eyes flickered and something cold passed behind it. Then it was gone. Well, she said, you know where to find me. I took the box upstairs. I opened it carefully. I pulled out the hoodie, a second hoodie underneath it, the book, the coffee mug, and then underneath all of it, sitting at the bottom of the box, there was a phone. A cheap, prepaid phone. It was turned on. The screen was lit up. There was one app open. I looked at it and my entire body went still. It was a live audio feed. I could see the waveform moving. I held my breath and listened. I could hear the faint hum of my refrigerator through the phone's tiny speaker. The audio was coming from my apartment. Right now. She had planted another device. Somewhere in the box, buried under my own old clothes, she had tucked another listening device. And she had walked up to me with a smile on her face and handed it to me. I called the officer directly. He said, this is exactly what we needed. Don't move the phone. Don't turn it off. We can trace the app back to her account. This is direct physical evidence linking her to the whole thing. For the first time since this started, I felt like I wasn't crazy. But I also felt something worse. Because 20 minutes earlier, when Phaedra was standing on the sidewalk with that box, telling me she missed me, I had almost felt sorry for her. That's what scared me the most. How good she was at this. And how close I kept coming to falling for it. A few days passed. On the 4th day, Benaya called. His voice sounded off right away. Hey, I need to show you something. Can you come over? I drove to his place. He let me in and picked up his phone. He unlocked it and handed it to me. It was open to his text messages. A conversation with Phaedra. She had been texting him every single day. The first few were friendly, asking how he was doing, asking if I seemed okay. Then the messages changed. About 4 days in, she started saying things like, I'm worried about him. He wasn't always like this. And then, there are things I never told anyone about what happened between us. And then it got worse. She started telling Benaya that I was emotionally abusive, that I controlled her finances, that I told her who she could and couldn't hang out with, that she was scared of me. I put the phone down. I looked up at Benaya. She's telling me you're dangerous, he said. I know it's not true, but she's saying this to other people too. He rubbed the back of his neck. I talked to Charlie. She told Benaya Phaedra reached out to her with the same exact story. I finally understood what Phaedra was doing. This wasn't just about watching me. She was poisoning everything around me at the same time. She was rewriting the story. If this ever came to light, she'd already have people halfway to believing she was the victim. I went to Charlie the next day. I told her everything from the beginning. She told me you were stalking her, Charlie said quietly. She said she was scared of you. I looked Charlie right in the face. I haven't been near her apartment. I haven't contacted her once in 4 months until 2 days ago. Charlie looked down at the table. She called me again this morning. She asked me where you go for coffee, what time you leave for work. She said she wanted to avoid running into you because it was too painful. We both just sat there because the meaning of those questions was so obvious now. Phaedra wasn't trying to avoid me. She was mapping my schedule. I asked Charlie if she would be willing to talk to the police. She pulled back. I don't want to get in the middle of this. You're already in the middle of it. She put you there. Charlie was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. That night, I was sitting in my apartment when my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. No name, no contact. I know you found the phone in the box. Doesn't matter. I have everything I need. You should have just signed the form. I stared at that message for a long time. The form. The blank piece of computer paper that Anders had tried to get me to sign. I had assumed it was part of the act, but sitting there reading Phaedra's text, I understood what it actually was. If I had signed that blank page, Phaedra would have had my signature on a piece of paper with nothing else on it. She could have written anything above that line. A confession, an agreement, a statement. The form was never about covering a fake zoo. It was about getting my handwriting on a blank check she could fill in later. I called the officer. She just texted me from a number I don't have, and I think I know what the form was for. The officer's voice got serious. Don't respond to that text. Don't delete it. Screenshot everything. We're moving on this tomorrow. The officer called me at 6:45 the next morning. They'd traced the app on the prepaid phone to an account registered under Phaedra's name, her real name. She hadn't even tried to hide it. They'd also pulled security camera footage from the lobby of my building and identified Anders and Kepler. Both of them had prior records for fraud and breaking and entering. When the police brought them in, Kepler broke fast. Less than 20 minutes. Phaedra found them through a mutual contact. She paid them each $500. She gave them the khaki uniforms, the fake name tags, the rubber snake. She told them exactly what to do. Go in loud and confident. Get the resident out of the bathroom. Plant the device in the vent. Try to get a signature on the blank page. And if they could, grab the watch on the coffee table. The watch wasn't some last-minute bonus. Phaedra knew about it because she'd heard me talking about it. Through the first device, the one the police now believe she installed herself, weeks before the fake zookeepers ever showed up. They brought Phaedra in for questioning that afternoon. The officer called me afterward. She walked in calm, composed. She had a whole story ready. She said she was scared of you. She started crying. The officer said her composure cracked in stages. First she said Kepler was lying. Then she said the app had been hacked. Then she said I had planted the devices myself to frame her. When we played her the recording from her own device, the one in the box, where she can clearly be heard telling you she misses you while standing outside your building, the same day she texted Charlie asking for your schedule, she stopped talking. Phaedra was charged with stalking, illegal surveillance, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted identity theft for the blank signature scheme. That evening, I sat in my apartment, and it was quiet for the first time in days. Actually quiet. Benaya came over with takeout. We ate on the couch and didn't say much for a while. Then he looked at me and said, "You know this is done, right? She can't come near you." I nodded, but my eyes went to the bathroom door, the vent above the tub. I thought about how long that first device had been in there before Anders and Kepler ever knocked. Weeks, maybe longer. Benaya watched me staring at that door. "Hey, you caught it." Most people wouldn't have caught it. I looked down at my hands. I almost signed the form. I was holding the pen. Benaya didn't miss a beat. But you didn't. The restraining order went through a week later. Charlie called to apologize for doubting me, even for a second. I changed my locks again. I moved the coffee table away from the window. I put Benson's watch in a safety deposit box. Not because I was scared anymore, because it was too important to leave sitting out. On a Thursday morning, I was making coffee. It was early, quiet. My phone buzzed. For a second, my whole body tensed. It was Benaya. "Breakfast?" he texted. I typed back, "Yeah, give me 20 minutes. I took a sip of coffee, looked at the bathroom door, walked over and closed it. Then I grabbed my jacket and left.